start developing into raised bog once more. Look, thanks for listening to me, and I hope you've gained something from the talk. I'm finished.
Brilliant. That was great, Jim. Thanks, and really interesting. And I wasn't up to speed on Clara Bog really at all, admittedly. So that's really good. That's our last speaker, which is great. Thanks to all the speakers. Really informative. Loads of questions after coming in. So what I'll do is, what am I doing here? Sorry. Start answering some questions. Hopefully. So I'm going to. Some of them have already been answered, so I'll go to the ones that haven't. Yes, so a couple for Catherine here. One from Pippa. Have the flood patterns on the Curlews changed over the years, Catherine?
Yeah, very much so. As I said, kind of maybe 20, 30 years ago, a summer flood would have been considered a once in 20-year event. Whereas now we get summer floods consecutively every year. Just to give you an example, maybe in the last 15 years, we've had something like 12 summer floods. And a summer flood would be kind of classified as a flood between the months of May and August. So they absolutely have. In terms of the, you've all seen the news footage of very, very extreme floods down in the Curlews. Generally with a focus on Athlone, because Athlone tends to flood. That kind of a flood event used to be something that was once in 100-year event, and we've had 2, if not nearly 3 in the last 5, 6, 7 years. So yeah, flood patterns are very different, have very definitely changed.
Brilliant. I just see one there. It's actually been answered by Des, but I think it might be actually worth mentioning for everyone again. Des, you mentioned a flock of up to 100 curlew, and I think a lot of people listening will be astounded by that, because they'll know the struggling numbers that curlew are under, and Catherine mentioned that as well. So you might just qualify what those birds are.
You can hear me, Ricky? Yes. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, those would tend to be, would expect to be migrants coming in from Scotland, Scandinavia. We have very small numbers, as Catherine mentioned earlier, and we do have a small few in, well, possibly a couple of pairs in the sea blooms, but other than that, it's very hard to pick out ours versus somebody else's curlew. Sure.
Yeah, so
but in general terms, the numbers that we would see, like having 100 curlew or plus that in South Laois, and then others are on the coast and in lots of other counties, they're migrant.
Yeah, just wintering birds, we'd call them. Yeah, cool, brilliant. That's good.
Go
ahead, Des.
I just left out something earlier, just to say on those 4 rivers I should have mentioned earlier. I'm sorry for taking up another few seconds, but it's just to explain that, for example, the golden plover, the lapwing, the gulls, there were 3,000-4,000 golden plover, there were hundreds, 800,000 lapwing, 1,000 lesser blackback gulls last Sunday on those rivers, floodplains.
Cool, thanks. Jim, just a question here from Monica the Bath. She's asking, could you just say a little more about the restoration method you mentioned at the end? So I think she's talking about bunding.
Yeah, look, I haven't been a fan of this kind of work, but there's no doubt about it that this kind of work will be required in smaller sites, and also in areas where the top has been taken off the bog. So, you have to manage to hold water close or slightly above the surface if you're going to get your sphagnum to come into it. But I wouldn't be, unless you have to, I wouldn't go down that route, because it'll be a much more expensive job to actually do. I would try doing it without the bunding, first of all.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, and it looks kind of quite severe compared to what we're used to with the drain blocking, which is traditional.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Which, well, really doesn't matter if it's about the sort of restoration or at least the rehabilitation, I suppose, is the word. Chris, a long one here for you. Chris, what do you envision is needed to support more people accessing Abelex Bog in a way that get understanding of the ecology without stressing the fragile restoration or the habitat? So good question. It's like, how do you get people in and interested without trampling it all to death, really?
Well, the advantage that Abelex Bog has is that we have the old railway line there. We have an infrastructure with walkways and loops and paths that people can access, and it actually only keep people to a certain area of the bog. They rarely go into areas that is sensitive. Bigger numbers bring bigger problems. But maybe just how to get people to talk about all of these things. If you just listen to Des and to Alex and to Catherine and everybody, you will see that there's a lot of interlinkages between all of these habitats that we were talking. I mean, the area that Des covered has Abelex Bog in it, has all the river systems, it has catchment areas. And I don't think that wherever you live, just check on the likes of Wetland Surveys Island, with your local heritage officer. Surveys has been done about all the wetlands in your area, and all of these things are linked, and your awareness is just by, first of all, finding it around you and your river systems and your area around you. Go and have a look at them, see what is there, find out about them, share it with other people, talk to people. The other thing is interesting about all of this presentations is that the future of all of this is a multi-stakeholder involvement, that from farmers to local people to practitioners to everybody, state, semi-state, needs to be involved in all of this. And there needs to be a tied-up thinking that we can't see these sites in isolation of each other, but maybe how it interlinked with each other, and how it serves the common, the wider good with the insects and with the birds and stuff that don't sit on one little spot alone. They fly around and they migrate. So I hope it answers her question as well. Abelex is an open place. We have literally, since the COVID, the people have tripled and quadrupled the amount of people that is coming there. We don't have to invite them. It's an open access area anyway.
But equally we have enough infrastructure there to kind of people to follow those desire lines and not to be sort of eking out, you know, sort of making routes for themselves or going off on you know, voyages of discovery and trampling across all the good habitats. So yeah, that's good. A quick one for you, Des, from Fiona McGowan. It's a setup. She knows the answer already. Have you seen any rarities lately on your patch?
In terms of what? I'm sure
I'd say birds. Let's just go birds. When
birds, well, the main rarity would be in 2017, a great white egret on the Mash, which I don't think has been seen in Laois before or since. Unfortunately, it didn't stay too long. Other than that, we do get what we call coastal birds, you know, occasional things like white-fronted geese or pink-footed geese, things like that. But and some of the small waders, the sandpipers. The main interest I would have at the moment is that over the last number of years, I've been following green sandpipers overwintering along the Nore and the tributaries, and I would have had up to 8 together on the tributaries and the River Nore itself, on the floodplain of. So green sandpiper would not have been known as an overwintering inland bird in Ireland.
No, very good. I'm not ignoring Alex either. He's actually been beavering away answering questions in the background, so he's answered quite a few. So this is an interesting one, Jim. And equally, I'm not Enda Murphy, if you're listening. Catherine's actually typing away to your question there, so I'm going to let her finish that, I think. Jim, this one's interesting, and I actually thought of it myself last night when I seen your slide with the road. From an anonymous person, Jim, could you imagine the road across the bog at Clara being rerouted or closed? Would it make any difference at this stage? So forget it. I don't think anyone can imagine it, but could it be removed and would it make any difference?
Well, let me say that we did imagine it, and we imagined at one stage a huge big dam at the end of the Ratton Road, holding back a huge amount of water. Now, I had made some much smaller dams on another bog, Ratty-Moor, and the only problem with them was that they had a regrettable tendency to collapse. So that we definitely decided that even if it was possible, it wouldn't be desirable to actually do something like that. So now my whole thing about it is you try and get the bog, or what remains of the bog, to reintegrate back into the landscape. You don't try and create big, huge dams or anything else like that, you know, because I think that'll just give you more problems, not less.
Cool. Very good. Trying to find anything else. Quick one for you, Catherine. Are there mink on the Callows?
Yes. Unfortunately, yeah, there's quite high populations of mink, but I mean, that's pretty much they're widespread across the country. So yeah, there's big populations on the Gallows.
Another one there for you. Quick fire round for you, Catherine. What would happen if the Callows weren't cut? If they were just let go rank, I suppose.
Well, land amendment for the Callows is actually would be a real devastating loss to the biodiversity there. For one, in order for the species diversity, the botanical species diversity is dependent on the Callows either being cut or grazed. And many of the bird species are reliant on kind of the Callows being managed and cut and grazed. Now, obviously, with some of the bird species, especially some of the breeding wader species and things like windchat, what you'd be looking for is later cutting. But you certainly wouldn't want them to be going rank, because that would actually, the site would deteriorate and any of the special interests would just disappear.
Cool. That's good answer. I just shared the poll results there. Going to tie it up there now before 1:15. We kind of see the participant numbers are starting to drop off there a bit. So lots of really complimentary comments in the chat section, saying thanks to our speakers. Thanks a million. Just remind people about the I Donate link if anyone wants to donate to the branch. We'd really appreciate it there. I also just shared the poll results. I don't know if you can see them there. Probably no surprise. I'm actually quite 50 people participated, and most people have been to Loch Bura, which is no sort of crazy result. You'd hope so, being a visitor site. Clara Bog and Abelex Bog, both really well visited as well. The Shannon Callows is lower than I thought. I thought like anyone that sort of be driving around that part of Galway or Offaly would have been to Clonmacnoise or anything, would have seen the Callows per se. And Laois floodplain grassland, I wouldn't be surprised at that really at all. It's unless it's flooded, it's somewhere you drive straight past, just thinking it's a normal piece of countryside. And I'm guilty of that myself, totally. And it's one of actually the reasons the sites are threatened, because it's so dynamic. It's flooded one day and not the next, and the birds are there one day and not the next. So I really enjoyed that sort of whistle-stop tour of 5 different sites around 2 counties. I think it's a really nice format for talks, get lots of voices and opinions, and it's good. I hope everyone else enjoyed it. I am told there's a day for everything. So World Wildlife Day is coming up on the 2nd of March, I think. So we might try do something similar. So panelists, keep your head down. If you get emails or texts from me over the next few weeks, I might be asking for something for you to speak again. So just avoid calls from me for a while.
Just before everyone goes, can I just say a huge thank you to you, Ricky, for organising this. I have to say it's been nice to see some old faces, people I haven't seen for a wee while. So it's been well done, Ricky. That was good fun and great turnout. I mean, fantastic to see that number of people there. And Loch Bura won. What can I say in the poll?
You've really moved over to the dark side. It's
all twisted.
It's really
Everyone should
bad.
go to Loch Bura, and I'll enjoy the Callows on my own. Thank you very much.
And folks, the usual. Follow us on Facebook. We're on Twitter. Abelex Bog is, Curlew EIP is, Loch Bura is, Bordamona, and Birdwatch Ireland Laois branches. Everyone's on all the social media these days, so keep an eye out for all that stuff. Look, thanks a million, everyone.